which way do you turn? Had a proper stretch of good weather here lately in Ireland and all over the world. And it's the kind that doesn't really come often enough that you'd ever take it for granted. Although, do you know, we could do with a bit less of it, and for the global situation to be actually managed would be good. Anyway, the cats here have the measure of it better than I do, honestly. Pippi, our youngest, she's a little mackerel tabby with long white socks, hence the name, Pippi Longstocking, has taken herself off to lie flat out on the cool tiles by the back door, the way she does really the minute there's any real heat in the day, while up in the front window we have Mac and Nala carrying on their ongoing dispute over who owns the cat hammock, which is supposed to take two, and does in fact take two cats, but neither of them will put up with the other one being there. This is the spot really that catches the best of the light and the best of the view out, which is obviously most important for indoor cats. So watching the lot of them, Hope, by the way, is our black cat, and she's just a dark shadow in a corner usually, or stretched out on the couch, which is relatively cool. Anyway, watching the lot of them arrange themselves around where the sun is and isn't got me thinking. Really thinking about how we actually relate to the sun here in Irish tradition, because it isn't what a lot of people coming to this work might expect. Because there's a notion that floats around that Irish paganism is at its heart some kind of sun worship. Any paganism, I suppose, is some kind of sun worship. And that the old Irish were out there venerating the sun the way you'd picture some sun cult. And that if you wanted to practice this tradition, you should be building your whole year around solar festivals and calling to the sun at the four quarters and all that. And honestly, none of that is really Irish. Now, through our monuments, we monitored solar placements and solar alignments, definitely. But for the most part, those kind of mostly New Age notions of what a sun cult might look like comes from elsewhere, mostly from the Wiccan and Druid revival systems that got assembled in Britain in the 20th century. And when you just lay it over the Irish material, it doesn't really sit right. Here we have the four great fire festivals of the Irish year. So we have Samhain, Imbolc, Bealtaine and Lunasa. And these aren't the same as the solstices and the equinoxes at all. And when I started as a baby pagan, baby witch, it was in a traditional Wiccan coven. Honestly, it was the only community I could find. I was 18 years old and they were the only ones who take me in. And I'm actually really grateful to them because it gave me a really good start in Irish paganism generally and in how groups work and function and communities can, need or get good or bad things from their leadership, right? So, yes, there was this wheel of the year that I suppose most of you are familiar with, the 8 festivals, which are basically kind of an amalgamation and do include Samhain, Imbolc, Bealtaine and Lunasa in different spellings maybe than I would be familiar with them. And it was always kind of confusing because I got the midsummer and like the height of the sun and all that. That was quite clear and self-explanatory within that system. But it was like Bealtaine was like a mini-me version of the solstice, and it didn't really make sense to me. But the fire festivals in the Irish tradition, they fall at the turns of the farming and the herding year. And the fire in them is the fire that the people lit themselves, not the sun up in the sky. So these are community festivals. Now, that doesn't mean that the sun is absent. It's in the language, and that's where you find the real of it. There's a really old protective poem, what's called a lorica, that comes down to us attached to the name of Colum Cille, or Colum Cille, where the traveller that's setting out alone really calls on God. And there's a line in it, a grian rov soraid sech, which translates roughly as, King of suns, may the way be smooth. So the sun is in there as a way of speaking about brightness and safe passage, woven into a blessing, and not set up as a god to be adored. In the living folk practice here in Ireland, it shows up another way again in how the people actually moved. The word is DESH-al, Yesh is to the right. So we're going sunwise with the sun's course, your right hand to the centre. One of our preeminent folklorists, Kevin Danaher, he records people walking sunwise at the Holy Wells in parts of Connacht and Ulster specifically, making their rounds in the direction the sun travels, because that was the lucky road, the blessing road. If you go the other way, against the sun, you're into TOO-uh-hal, the turn that the tradition keeps for harm and for cursing. Now, even though I'm doing a very interesting series on our YouTube channel about Irish cursing, it's not something that we're going to be focusing on as part of our work, and certainly not what I'm going to be teaching over the internet. So the sun was never a thing that you worshipped here in our own traditions. It was a direction you moved in, a way of putting yourself in step with how the world turns. Now, to work with that yourself, you want just a minute of daylight and a small bit of room to turn around. Do it when there is actual light in the sky, so the morning or the middle of the day, ideally somewhere that you can feel a bit of sun on you. Even a bright, dull day will do grand, honestly. So go and stand at a window indoors or outside if you can manage it. Take a breath and settle yourself, and bring to mind the one thing in front of you that you want to go well. So whether that's a piece of work that you're doing, a trip that you're facing, a hard conversation, whatever it is, just think of it and hold it really simply and plainly, without dressing it up, without getting caught into the whys, the wherefores, the hows, the stresses of it, right? Just hold on to it, right? Then turn yourself slowly around to your right, so that's sunwise or DESH-al, the whole way round in a full circle, keeping that one thing in your mind as you go. You can do that 3 times over, so 3 slow sunwise turns. And on the last of them, as you come back around to face outwards again, say the old line, and I'll put it in the show notes as well. Grian Rob soraid sech, King of Suns, may the way be smooth. Beir Bua. So you can say it in Irish or you can say it in English, whichever you are most comfortable with. Or, you can push yourself outside of your comfort zone a little bit and try and get the Irish down. Anyway, keep it simple. When you're done, then you just stop and go on about your day. Now, if you're physically able for it, a little up in the ante on this that I've done is, like a kid when you do the spinning tops, you're just spinning round and round and round. So I have actually done that as a way of raising energy for a particular project or mission or spell or good wish. And the kind of the fallen down bit then is the Beir Bua. So I'd be saying something like that line as I'm spinning round and round, and then Beir Bua when I fall down to the ground, and that kind of releases it. So yeah, you can do either, but then you stop and you go about your day. Please don't hurt yourself if you're spinning around. Don't be blaming me if you do, right? One thing to hold on to, sunwise is the blessing direction, and that's the one you use. The other way, against the sun, carries the opposite weight in the tradition, and it isn't something to be playing at idly. So when you turn to the right with the sun, and you leave the other road well alone, unless you really, really know what you're doing. If you'd like a grounded Irish practice like this one coming at you every month, or 2 or 3 of them, with the source and the story behind it, that's exactly what Simple Irish Spells is for. It's my newsletter over on the Irish Pagan School site. And when you sign up, you'll get my Magic for Social Change toolkit as a free download as well. So with the newsletter then, there's a free tier and a paid tier, and whichever you choose, you're going to get properly sourced Irish practice that you can actually do. So you'll find it at irishpagan.school/spells. And again, it'll be linked in the show notes below. So, see you next time.